Hey y'all, I'm Danielle, owner of Naturally Created Wholesale. And if you are new here, welcome. If you are already subscribed, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. And in my previous two videos, I talked about my chargebacks and just my experience with those. And so I wanted to do another video regarding like customers. And so there's this question that a lot of people think the answer is yes to, but I think the answer is no. And I want to tell you why and just give you my perspective. So the question is the customer always right? And although I feel like you should always try to create the best customer experience possible, I don't think that means that the customer has to always be right in doing that. So what I mean by that is, um, you have got to get things in place in your business that are firm, that are crystal clear, that there's no gray areas. Sure, you may be able to make an exception, but like this is black and white, like this is what it is. And you do that by creating policies. And sometimes these policies are hard to create, and sometimes the customer may not like them, but that's what they are. And you have got to make your policies visible. So a lot of times, like, people will try to hide like their policies, their FAQs, and they just, they don't want to mention it, because especially like if you have a business to where it's like a lot of like small businesses that sell skincare, natural skincare, they have this policy that like, oh, if you shop with me, like it's non-refundable due to the nature of the products. Okay. You have to tell people that, because what happens is if you are not clear about that, then what happens when someone wants to return something? They're like, oh, I didn't know. Well, I have these policies listed in multiple places on my website. I've maybe even sent you an email regarding our policies so that you can learn more about them to make sure you're comfortable shopping with our company. Like, I think when you do stuff like that, it's easier to have that. Like me, I'm like, no, this is not right, because I have made it very clear. I made it black and white, and I'm gonna give you an example about it. So my answer is no, absolutely not. They're not always right. I'm not always right as a customer. Maybe I want to get my way sometimes, and maybe I may be upset, but the policy is the policy, especially if it's been crystal clear. Like, for example, I'm gonna use myself as an example. I've shopped with a vendor before, and I ordered some containers, but I ordered the wrong size caps. And they had it clear as day. This is their policy. So when I went to reach out to them, they were like, yeah, we're sorry, like we can't refund that because like that's our policy. I was like, oh, like I was frustrated, but I was more frustrated with me versus the company, because they were very clear. But it wasn't anything I could do about it. So they accommodated me. I think they may have given me like free shipping for like my next purchase, or maybe like they expedited my order or something like that. But like they were not going to refund me, and I didn't expect them to refund me because it was clear as day. So I want to give y'all some policies that are hard to figure out how you want to manage it. But as a business owner, you have got to figure out what you want your policies to be, and you have to make it clear as day on what those policies are going to be. And it's your responsibility to make sure your customers, potential customers, whoever is on your website, is easily able to access that information. All right, so a couple of policies that you need to make sure you have some clear guidelines on is like, what happens when someone receives a damage? What is that process? Not just what happens, but what is that process from the moment they receive that damaged product? Like, what happens? How should they reach out to you? What do they need to send you? What will you do in return? Like, all of that needs to be laid out. So damages, what happens? This happens a lot, y'all. What happens if something gets lost? What are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? If a carrier loses, like actually loses one of your customers' packages, what are you going to do? That needs to be laid out in your policies. What happens if something is delivered, but the customer says they didn't receive it? That's a big one. That's a big one. What are you going to do? What is the process? Because if, and I'll tell you about an example that I experienced, if someone pays for something and it shows delivered, but they didn't get it, they're going to be looking at you like, what's going on? Like, I need my product that I paid for. However, if you have policies in place, it may be, they may already know what the answer is going to be. So like me personally, my policy is if the shipment, if the tracking number shows that it delivered and you're telling me that you haven't received it, I have some tips of what you can do to try to locate that package. But if the carrier is telling me that that package has been delivered and you're saying you didn't get it, my company does not take responsibility. Now, if the package is lost by the carrier, we will reship it to you. And then I will file a claim and get my money back, right? But if a package has delivered and you're saying you never got it, we can't take responsibility for that. And so this actually recently happened to me, to where I had a nice size order go out, and the lady, she said, hey, it delivered, but I didn't get it. Like, I think somebody took it. And she was like, I'm not expecting you to reship it. Like, I already read your policies. And you know, I want to place another order, but I don't want to send it to that address. And I was like, okay. And so with her, you know, I worked with her to get this package reshipped to her, but it was a much better conversation because I, on the front end, have my policies laid out. Like, this is what happens. Like, there's no gray area. Like, when this happens, this is how we handle this. When that happens, this is how we manage stuff like that. As far as returns, what if somebody gets something and they don't like it? What type of policy do you have for that? Are you like, oh well? Or are you like, you can return it within X amount of days and we'll refund you, or we'll send you a gift card? Like, make sure that type of stuff is laid out, because the customer is not always right, but you don't have much ground to stand on to say like, this is our company's policies. You don't have much ground to stand on if you haven't thought this stuff through. So it's a lot to think about. I wouldn't like rush to like copy somebody else's policies or just hurry up and put something out there just because at the end of the day, when things happen, you have to stand behind that. And sometimes that costs you money, right? So if you're like, oh, we'll reship you your package because you want the customer to always be right and always be happy, that costs you money. And some people, the package didn't actually get lost. They're trying to get 2 orders. You know what I'm saying? So I talked about this a lot in my chargeback video. Like, you have to implement things that are going to protect your business. And some people may think that like that sounds wrong, but that is the God's honest truth. You have got to be a good steward over what you have, because if you are not, it's going to be hard for God to bless that business. It's going to be hard for you to sustain that business if you're not being a good steward. And part of being a good steward is laying a foundation and having these policies in place for damages, for returns, for lost products, for what's another one? I already talked about damaged products. What happens if someone, like, it causes a breakout or they become allergic or something? Like, what do you have on your website to state that like these products have not been evaluated, or these products, you know, have not been uh tested by a dermatologist, or these products are not made to heal or cure or, you know, whatever. Like, y'all, make sure you have things in place so that when things happen, because they will happen, it's just a matter of when will they happen. If you've been in business long enough, something's going to happen. When I first started running my business, I didn't have these types of policies in place. So when someone said their package delivered, but it or I'm sorry, when someone said that, okay, the tracking number says delivered, but I never got it, I just reshipped the product because I was like, okay. And then the person ended up finding the product like after I shipped it. And so I was mad. I'm like, she's like, oh yeah, my neighbor got it and I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, well, I just shipped you more free product. Like, so that's why I'm a huge advocate for myself and my business and protecting my business. And like I said, exceptions can be made, but like, and I'm a huge believer in that too. Like sometimes, you know, you want to make an exception and it's okay to make an exception. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying get things in place because the customer may not always be right, but you don't have nothing to stand on if you didn't put in the groundwork to get your foundation laid out. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to make another video about customer experience and things you can do to improve that, because that customer experience is key. And the customer can still have a phenomenal experience even with you having your own policies, as long as your policies are clear and they're visible. Like you can't hide this type of stuff. I'm a big believer in like transparency and making sure that you are telling people exactly what they're getting, because they are spending their hard-earned money and you don't want to play with people's money. So if people are spending money with you, you need to let them know what's going on and how you do business. They need to know that. And so that's my 2 cents. I hope this helps somebody, and I'll talk to y'all later.